got to help me. I can't do it all by myself. No, you got to help me, baby.
The way folks have reacted to what happened a week and a half ago has really been important. It is very easy in a time like this for people to retreat back instinctively to anger, to rage, to defensiveness. We go back to our usual positions of being opposed to each other and antagonistic. And in the days since this incident, which has troubled this community greatly, I have seen Stan and Melvin, I've seen the pastors from this neighborhood, I've seen the L.A.P.E.R, and I've seen community leaders sit down and try to discuss how we can make sure this process is fair and transparent, but also discuss how we can move forward together and heal the community and make something better as a result of this. So I'm really happy that this meeting has been put together. Thank you, Naomi, for being willing to moderate it tonight, and I look forward to being here and answering whatever questions people have.
Pastor Allen has an emergency and he has to leave, so I'm going to let him make remarks so he can leave, and then we're going to move into the agenda. Thank you.
Good evening to everyone. I'm certainly glad that we are here today. I've been in Venice. As a matter of fact, to give a brief history, I pastored one of the oldest churches in Venice. Our church started out as the Colored Baptist Church. Amen. That was the name of First Baptist Church in 1910. It was called the Colored Baptist Church. So that gives you a little bit of history of where our church comes from. Almost every church in Venice, African American, and some of the others have members, have been birthed because of First Baptist Church. So our history goes back a long way, even before a lot of churches in the community. I have a lot of senior members of First Baptist that's been residents for 40, 50, and 60 years, and some 70 years. When I first came to Venice, believe it or not, in 2006, I didn't even know there was black folks in Venice. Because I was born in Watts and we couldn't come across. I was raised my whole life. Coming to Santa Monica in Venice was almost an automatic go to jail. Seriously. So it took, I was really surprised when I got here. But then when I got here, I viewed some things that I thought I wouldn't see in Venice. And one of the things I'm stressing as the pastor of First Baptist, a lot of you know I work in the community as hard as I can, feeding the homeless. Our church has fed over maybe 8,000 homeless and helped a lot of the people in the communities that without food, paid lights, gas bills. We've done a lot that we can. But one thing that I really need to stress to everyone and to L.A.P.E.R is that the unequal law enforcement that I've seen with my own eyes in Venice, and that's some of the things that shouldn't happen, especially in 2012. I've already had several conversations with Captain Johnson. I was in the office with Chief Beck yesterday. They are well on their way to making some changes, but yet in still community, we need to be a community, both black, white, Hispanic, Chinese, everyone. It is very important that each one of us feel that no one is special than the other person when it comes to walking the streets of Venice.
Amen.
And that's why we are gathered here today. We're not gathered here to holler, to scream, to cuss, to fuzz. How many of you need to do something different? If all the meetings you've done haven't got anything changed, then that means we need to approach it differently. Is that right? So I'm asking that you be clear, as Ms. Naomi has asked, be respectful. But my church is here for the long haul. We're not going to stop fighting for justice in Venice, because I see a lot of things standing on my corner. Amen. For 7 years, I've seen where an African American is walking down the street and a European American is walking on the same side. And I've seen L.A.P.E.R pass by and hit a U-turn and stopped the African American, and he wasn't doing nothing. Amen. So I've seen some things, and I speak passionately from it. This has been going on for 57 years. I'm 57 years old. Some of you are older than me. And so in Watts, we expect to get stopped. In Compton, we expect to get stopped. It shouldn't be that way, but it's an expectation. But in Venice, because of the population, who everyone is, it's pretty hard to say that this law only applies to you when everyone does the same thing. So we need to get a lot of things clear. It's going to take more than one meeting. Let me thank Lieutenant Booker's around here somewhere. You need to get to know him. They're good. The NAACP is here also for Santa Monica. I need to ask you to please see him and become a member of the NAACP. We need to get the NAACP back strong again. So Daryl, could you stand, please? I'm using my time for that. And then as I leave, I found out something talking with Chief Beck and with Captain Johnson and Lieutenant Booker. Lieutenant Booker put it succinctly. The reason why we have a lot of these ridiculous laws, skateboards, 13 inches from the curb that the police can use to stop us, is because we are not voting. Amen. So one of the things First Baptist is going to be doing is encouraging everyone to vote. When we leave here today, I would like everyone to call Rosenthal's office, to call whoever our congressman is for this area, and let them know it's time to get rid of some of these laws. That only benefits the police. And the only way to do that is do it correctly. Yeah. By the vote. Is everybody with me? Yeah. So when we start a drive for vote election and for people to sign up, we need everyone to sign up, because we're going to get ballots together, we're going to get petitions together, and we're going to do this correctly. Yeah. Amen, everybody? Yeah. All right.
My name is Marvis, M-A-R-V-I-S, Davis. I am pastor of New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. Our church also have been in the community for 60 years, and I've served as pastor for 25 years. And so there are many things that I've seen since coming to Venice. This is not the first church that I served. I served First Second Community for 18 months, and then I served New Bethel for 25 years. And so since the 80s, and certainly since being at New Bethel since 86, I've seen many things, heard many things, seen many changes in the community. But basically tonight, I want you to know that as pastor of New Bethel, many of our members are here, I'm coming to hear what the people have to say. I believe that the issue is at hand, and my focus tonight is to be able to listen. Many of you in this community know that's been the key to my success, is to be able to sit down and to listen. And so therefore, that's what I came to do tonight. I came to hear you. Certainly, we want the people to speak so that we can do what is best in this community for all the people. So thank you again for this time.
This is my son, Ron, and this is our attorney, Benjamin Crump. First of all, on behalf of my family, I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to thank the police department for being here. I think it's important for my family and I to say that it's not our position that what happened to my son is a statement about the entire police department and many of the wonderful men and women who do the job. And so I want to make that perfectly clear. We think that this was an unfortunate incident, an unfortunate circumstance, and there's probably some specific people that need to be dealt with, but we just wanted to make that statement clear. In addition to that, again, we're happy to be here this evening. We hope that this is a discussion that has some longevity to it. We hope that it's a discussion that in terms of the community of Venice, that we stay at the table for the long run. What I do suggest is that after this meeting that we kind of come together as a community and really identify internally, what some of the issues are. I mean, we'll talk about it today, but to really put together a strategic plan, I think is really essential to identify, specific, topics or changes that we want to make, with suggestions on how to make them. If they're here to talk with us, and we have what I believe to be just a wonderful opportunity, but we've got to seize that opportunity. I think that we have to regain control of the topic of protect and serve. I think that's a topic that belongs with the community that's being protected and served. So we have to revisit that in some real way. Come to a really clear understanding of what that means in a diverse community like the Venice community. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So I hope that those of you who are concerned, those of you who are stakeholders, that you will continue to engage us in this conversation. I'm going to be involved in that conversation. We're going to really put together, some really functional plans and strategies that will allow us to live in the community in peace, allow them to do their job in an effective, equal manner, and allow Venice to be the community it's supposed to be. That's all I want to say.
I've known Ron for a long time. I didn't know he was a minister. Anyway, we're going to get started. We have posted some of the questions on the board here that came up during the meeting that we had. Just to give you a little bit of background, some of us understanding the urgency and the importance of the issues that we need to come together to discuss, had a meeting on Friday to say that we needed to come together very quickly and address these issues because we didn't want things to get out of control or explosive. Now, Pastor Allen said that he was from Watts. I remember the Watts riots in 1965. We here in Venice were feeling like things were miles away, but at the same time, things like that were going on all around the country. And so it's interesting that Pastor Allen said that he didn't know that there were black people in Santa Monica and Venice, because growing up there, I've heard that all my life, and it just seems so strange to me that people didn't know that. Because families, black families have been in Santa Monica and Venice since, I don't know, my parents came out here in the 30s. And so, or actually earlier than that. So, the issue here is that we're all here, and we're all here together. So we have to learn how to live among and with one another. Venice has a long history of, when I grew up, there was a lot of hippies, and it was bohemian, and it was the beach, and, so things change. And so it doesn't mean that we have to change the fact that, what our standards and values are. We're still important people, and we still need to be respected. So I want to now go to the L.A.P.E. department, and I know is if there's other officers or Captain Brian Johnson is going to speak on the issue of your questions about the L.A.P.D. and their involvement in the Venice community, as well as give us an update on what's happening with Ronald Weekley and that issue. And we have some specific questions, Captain Johnson, that we'd like for you to address.
Captain Peters and myself, I think it's important for you both to know he's my boss. Okay, when we speak with one voice, and we're very passionate about what we do in terms of our service to the community. I think those of you that know Captain Peters, he is very community-oriented. We have made great strides, I think, or I hope you feel the same way in terms of going out and reaching out to the community and having dialogue. One of the issues that came up as it relates to the Venice-Oakwood area is it's a very unique area in terms of how to police, and for a multitude of reasons. It's been coined as the #1 visitor attraction in Southern California, surpassing Disneyland. And so we get a lot of visitors from not only outside the country, but from outside the state, in different counties. We just get a big influx of folks coming into Venice Beach. And so that's a challenge for us from a traffic standpoint, for crowds, and all those different issues. And so prior to me getting to Pacific, one of the things that they did with a lot of the stakeholders, Teresa Skinner is one of the longtime senior leads, Mark Reyna is one of the supervisors that worked the beach prior to his promotion, was created what we call the Oakwood Venice Task Force. And really, the reasoning behind that is because we knew the uniqueness of this community, we wanted to have folks that were dedicated to policing Venice and Oakwood, and we wanted to have some stability in those officers assigned. Lieutenant Creek, who's the officer in charge of the Venice Oakwood Task Force, was personally hand-selected in the inception of it and to help run it, along with Mark Reyna. She's back here with me as well as some of our other officers assigned. Peggy Thusing, one of the senior leads. Kristen Delatorre, who's the new senior lead for your area. I have Rich Parks, one of my assistant watch commanders, one of the leaders of Pacific, and then we have 2 of our other officers that are assigned to the Oakwood Venice Task Force. And so I think it's important for you to really understand when we look at the selection of personnel that we are assigning to this area, we don't just say, okay, we're going to take Bob and Joe and Sam and Susie. We really look at their background, their education, their experience, their temperament. They're human beings, and so we take a lot of interest in understanding the maturity of the officers that we assign to that area. Now, in saying all that, I think it's important for everyone to recognize we still police 26 square miles. We have a Westchester community that we're just as passionate about, just as active in terms of wanting to reduce crime and the fear and incidence of crime and addressing the quality of life issues, as well as the Palms area and everywhere else in between. And I think it's important for everybody to understand that our obligation is to the entire community. Recognizing that Venice was unique, we did something a little bit different. But I think that's important, and I don't want anybody to leave this room to feel that we don't think or we don't believe every community within Pacific is important, because that's just not the case. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little background, a little understanding of why we did what we did. Certainly, do we have some growing pains and the movement of personnel? Absolutely. But we believe that overall, the community is very supportive of what we're doing down in Venice Beach, and obviously we'll get to that in a little bit. The officers that were involved in the arrest were assigned to what is called the Violent Crime Task Force. And if you look at H.E.L.P.E.R, we actually have those different types of task forces. They have one in the Valley, we have one here in West Bureau. I'm not sure if Central Bureau has one, but I believe South Bureau does. And essentially what that is, if you look at our bureau, on the west side, we have Hollywood, West Los Angeles, Wilshire, Pacific, and Olympic, and West Traffic Division. Those divisions, each of the areas are 2 captains that are ultimately in charge of those commands, Captain Peters and myself. And then there's 2 captains for each one of those other areas, and then another captain for the traffic division. We report directly to Operations West Bureau. I think a lot of you know who our deputy chief is. That's Chief Debbie McCarthy. She's our bureau chief. Commander Bill Scott is our current commander. He's being assigned to South Bureau next DP, but we're getting Captain Dennis Cotto, who's being promoted to commander, who a lot of you in the room know. And so the bureau chief, she's in charge of all these areas. And all our personnel are technically assigned to an area but within her bureau. But she has the discretion to move resources based on crime and different issues to address really the crime issues as it relates to her own bureau. And the thought behind the task force is for a number of reasons. If we have a spike in a shooting, or we have some kind of serious violence, she's able to quickly get resources to a specific problem. And it gives the Bureau the mobility to move resources quickly, identify a problem, and address that problem. And so it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of work schedule, days off, and all those things that we have to comply with as employers when we're dealing with employees and their rights as it relates to days off and different things, vacation, etc. It just gives her ability to really move resources around quickly, and again, gives us that flexibility to address crime issues. People have asked, well, why did they come in on this Saturday? I can tell you that task force has been in existence for over 2 years. It's actually been coming into Pacific for over 2 years. And I can tell you personally, I've met with a lot of those officers, I met with the supervisors. They're very hand-selected, and those individuals move around the Bureau every day. They can be in Wilshire today, they can be in Pacific tomorrow, they can be in Olympic the next day. And they're literally moved around that quickly, just depending on issues. However, we have historically, in the summer months, have been getting them every Saturday. And why Saturday? Well, we know, again, based on past history, the influx of visitors and people coming to the Venice Beach area. We have huge traffic problems. We get our less traffic motors assigned to us every weekend. And again, they're brought in to help us deal with the influx of people that are coming in to your community so we can help better serve everybody. Our call load goes up, calls for service go up, crime goes up when we have this influx of people. So again, we bring them in to help with that workload. And that's simply what it is. It's a workload issue that the Bureau looks at based on the crime of all the different areas within our Bureau. And then we make decisions as the command officers and the chief ultimately how we're going to deploy those resources.
In reference to what you just said about the special task force coming into Venice on Saturdays to deal with a particular influx of crime, most of the incidents that we have are with people who live here in the community, not people who are coming to the beach or coming back and forth. So one of the questions is, why is LAPD treating infractions like skateboard violations or bicycle violations as major full-blown crimes? Why are people being treated as if they are committing felonies when it's a traffic violation, for example?
I guess the easiest way to answer that question is from a traffic standpoint. One of the things that Captain Peters and myself, when we go in front of CompStat, and that's literally the chief officers of the department, our chief, as well as Chief Beck, Chief Jacobs, who runs CompStat, Chief Paysinger, who is our boss for all of operations. One of the issues that we get tasked with looking at is our A's and K injuries. And every time we go to CompStat, we're looking at how are we doing in terms of traffic enforcement. I think we all understand that our biggest traffic collisions are typically heads in the roadway or in a crosswalk where somebody gets hit by a car and they end up getting injured very seriously or they get killed. And am I here to tell you that we stop everybody that's jaywalking or absolutely not? I can tell you, I drive through Venice Beach, and I can tell you it happens all the time. I understand it. Okay? And so the only thing that I would ask you to understand is we give our officers a lot of discretion to understand that looking at what we call our major traffic plan, and looking where we have areas where we have traffic violations and where we've had injuries, and to enforce a variety of traffic-related enforcement. That could be speeding, that could be lane straddling, it could be a number of things. It could be a head in the roadway. So I can tell you, we do a gamut of traffic enforcement. We get citizen complaints about it. When I was at the BNC meeting last week, I had a specific complaint just about a lot of the pet activity running through cars and stuff and causing traffic hazards.
There is an impression in the community that African Americans are profiled and that there's a significant imbalance and disproportionate arrest of African Americans in the community. Can you address those issues, please?
Yes. Many of you know, based on the consent decree, there's a lot of things that have been put in place to ensure that our mandate as an organization that we police constitutionally. That's my expectation of all my officers. I can assure you that's Captain Peters' expectation of all our officers. And we talk about that routinely at Pacific Division. That is the mandate. There is no room for error or judgment on that. We will police constitutionally, regardless of color, regardless of social and economic status. I think many of you have heard me say before, I don't care if you're homeless, and I don't care if you're a millionaire. The reality is we're going to enforce the law equally, period. And let me just talk about one thing that I think is very important that many people may not remember or understand that came out of the consent decree. And we call it the field data report, and FDR. And what that does is every contact that a police officer has, they have to document that stop. And what that does is every time they make a stop, they have to write the ethnicity of the person, the gender, everything. Okay, and what happens is it's a huge database of information based on individual officers. And if there's any indication that an officer is stopping a particular individual based on race or color, it will create what we call it as an action item. And we have to investigate and look at that. Obviously, if a citizen is stopped and they believe that they were racially profiled or there was biased policing, that's an automatic public complaint that is taken very seriously. I can tell you those investigations, we immediately start with canvassing for independent witnesses, interviewing, looking for video, pulling all the officers' stops, arrests, all their past arrests, and I can tell you that goes through several levels of review. We take that so seriously as an organization, and I should let Mr. Bustamante talk about that a little bit. But Internal Affairs is the only one that investigates bias or racial profiling types of allegations. And they have a specialized unit of hand-picked investigators. That's all they do. That's how serious the organization takes it. And I may let the Inspector General comment on that. I think it's important. Not yet? Okay. You're in charge.
Okay. Well, perception is reality. And the perception for people in this room, black, brown, otherwise, is that what you just said is not authentic. That's not to say that. That's not to say that it's not true. I'm just saying that people operate on their perceptions. So what is it that the LAPD can do to help the community understand that what you're saying is authentic, that when there are complaints, that they are investigated? What is it that we can do with the LAPD to have the community feel more trusted in what you're doing and what you're saying?
Certainly, I think this meeting tonight is a big first step. Obviously, since the incident, I met with Pastor Allen, I met with Stan and Marvin and several other members of the community to start dialogue again and to reinvigorate some dialogue that has, for lack of a better term, that has stopped because of just a change in personnel and things. And so the most important thing is we got to have this dialogue. You have to trust me as your commanding officer that what I'm telling you is true. And the reality is when we allow the investigations to go forward and provide the outcome of that, hopefully over time that will bring trust. Certainly over time, the dialogue and some of the different meetings that we will have to address some of these specific issues in more detail, getting to understand a little bit more of the issues that are affecting maybe different areas of Oakwood versus Venice. I think it's important. I think we need to understand that some people on one side of Venice have a little bit different perspective on issues. And maybe 3 or 4 blocks some other individuals or neighbors have a different perspective. It's important for Captain Peters, myself, and our leadership team to meet and get those differences and get that mutual respect and understanding. And so we have an open door relationship to deal with these issues. You know, let me just end by saying, you know, Oscar Duncan, rest his soul. I think that what you saw in terms of Pacific and L.A.P.E., this command, the number of resources and what we brought to bear to bring those suspects to justice, hopefully speaks volumes of our commitment to you as a community.
Some of you came in a little bit later, and one of the things that I said at the beginning is that at the end of this meeting, we're going to be asking for commitment from people here in this room to serve in an action role to help resolve some of the issues in the community. So I say to you, Captain Johnson and Mr. Bustamante, Mike, and the people on the panel here, one of the things that this organizing committee has done is to say that we would like to have a community police relations board so that there could be that kind of forum for what you just mentioned. Would you be willing to participate in such a board?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. So if you're interested in participating, serving, or being active on such a board, we'll have a sign up at the end so that you can participate and express your voice about the things that you're concerned about and work with the police department along with Captain Johnson and Officer Delatorre and the others to bring to resolution what our concerns are, because if we don't use our voice to say what we're concerned about, then we can't have any resolution. And it does us no good to be angry and to walk around and cuss, because we do curse, you know. We do. And to say that we're angry about something, but we have to get actively involved in participation. And my great-grandfather was a minister, so I'm going to say amen? Amen. All right. So, thank you very much. You can be seated. And we'll have some more questions, but I'd like for Mr. Bustamante to come up and talk about the investigations unit and how that operates.
Got to help me. I can't do it all by myself. No, you got to help me, baby. I can't do it all by myself.